The world is not yet awake, but you are. You are floating in that soft, quiet space between the dreamlands of do-it and the waking world of the living. There is no sound but the gentle puff of your husband's breath beside you on the reed mat, the occasional sleepy sigh from the small lump that is your daughter, curled near the wall. The air in your small home is cool and still, holding the night's peace. It smells of baked earth, dried reeds, and the lingering, faint scent of the hearth fire, now just a bed of pale, sleeping ash. This is the calmest part of the day, the moment when the world feels safe, wrapped in the deep blue veil of pre-dawn. You lie for a moment longer, feeling the rough, familiar texture of the linen cloth beneath your cheek. Your name is Merritt, and this is your home. This is your life. Slowly, carefully, you begin to stir. To move is to disturb the peace, to invite the day, but the sky will not wait. You untangle yourself from your sleeping cloth, your movements practiced and silent so as not to wake the others. Your bare feet find the floor, not with a sound, but with a feeling. It is cool, the packed earth firm and smooth beneath your solace. For a few heartbeats, you are simply a shadow within shadows, your eyes not yet adjusted to the gloom. The single high window is a rectangle of the faintest gray against the blackness of the wall, a promise of the sun that is still far away, still battling the serpent Apep on its journey through the underworld. You think of the gods, as you always do upon waking. You offer a silent prayer of thanks for seeing you through the night, for keeping your family safe from the spirits and demons that wander in the dark. Your first thought is of water, your mouth is dry with the dust of sleep. The water jar sits in the corner, a dark, heavy shape against the wall. You take a step, then another, your body moving with the slow, unthinking grace of lifelong routine, and then you stop. Your breath catches in your throat, a tiny, sharp sound that feels impossibly loud in the silence. Your heart does not leap, it simply stills. There, on the floor, halfway between you and the water jar, is a piece of the desert night that does not belong. It is small, no bigger than your thumb, a comma of darkness carved from shadow, but it is alive. Its tail is a perfect, elegant arch over its back, the tip a tiny, venomous jewel, a scorpion. It is utterly still, as if it too is listening to the silence of your home. All the stories your mother told you, all the warnings whispered by the village elders, they rush into your mind, not as words, but as a single, cold feeling. You know its name, the little one, the silent biter. You know the goddess Circuit, she who breathes life, is the one you must pray to for protection against its sting. But right now there is no prayer. There is only the creature and the space between you and the sleeping form of your child just a few feet away. Every muscle in your body is frozen, locked in a primal stillness. This is not a monster from a myth. It is a simple, terrible fact of life, a danger that can crawl through the smallest crack in the wall, a reminder that the desert, with its beautiful, deadly things, is always waiting to reclaim its space. You feel your own life, so warm and precious, balanced on the edge of this tiny, silent threat. Slowly, so slowly, your eyes scan the floor around you without moving your head. You see one of your husband's old leather sandals lying near the wall. Your mind, now sharp and clear with adrenaline, forms a plan. It is a simple, brutal plan, but it is the only one. You take a deep, silent breath and you move. You do not rush. You are a predator now, too. The sandal in your hand feels heavy, a tool of judgment, a single, swift motion, a dull thud against the packed earth. And then silence again. It is over. You stand there for a long moment, your heart finally beginning to beat again, a frantic drum against your ribs. You look at the small, broken thing on the floor, and then at your daughter, still sleeping peacefully, unaware of the small death that just occurred to protect her life. You take another breath, the first true breath of the new day. It is a breath of relief, of gratitude, and of knowledge. It is the breath of a survivor. With the small drama of the scorpion now behind you, a memory already fading into the texture of the morning, the rhythm of your day truly begins. You lift the heavy, wide-mouthed clay pot, settling its weight onto the coiled pad of cloth on your head. It is a familiar burden, a second spine that you have been trained to carry since you were a girl. Your daughter is awake now, chewing on a piece of dried fruit, her eyes still soft with sleep. You give her a gentle touch on the cheek, a silent promise of your return, and step out of the cool darkness of your home into the nascent light. The air outside is different. It's alive, carrying the sounds of the village stirring. You hear the distant braying of a donkey, the lowing of a cow, the murmur of voices from other homes as women like you begin the same timeless pilgrimage. The path to the river is not a path at all, but a space worn smooth by generations of feet. It wanes between the other mud brick houses, past small, fenced gardens where beans and lentils climb towards the growing light. The sun is not yet visible, but its arrival has painted the eastern sky in shades of soft rose and pale gold. The air smells of dust and damp earth, of cooking fires just being coaxed to life. You walk with a steady, unhurried pace, your body balanced, your senses alert. This walk is a meditation. It is a time to notice the world. You see the tracks of a fox in the dust near a chicken coop, a silent hunter who passed in the night. You hear the high, cheerful chatter of the weavers already at their looms in a nearby courtyard. These small things are the threads of your world, the fabric of your community. As you draw closer to the river, the landscape begins to change. The dry, dusty ground gives way to softer, darker soil. The air grows cooler, heavier with moisture, and carries a new scent of green. Living smell of reeds and wet earth and something else, something ancient and powerful. This is the scent of Hapi, the god of the Nile's inundation. This is the smell of life itself. The vegetation grows thicker here. Tall papyrus reeds, their feathery heads nodding in the slight breeze, form a dense wall of green. You can hear the river now, a low, constant whisper. It is a sound so fundamental to your existence that you often don't notice it, like the sound of your own breathing. But now, as you approach, you listen. You listen for what the river is telling you. You emerge from the reeds onto the bank and the world opens up. The Nile, it is immense, a vast, shimmering ribbon of silver and gray under the dawn sky. It flows with a slow, muscular grace, its surface deceptively calm. Other women from the village are already here, their dark silhouettes stark against the brightening water. No one speaks much. There is a shared understanding, a collective caution that hangs in the air. Your eyes, and the eyes of every woman there, are not looking at the beauty. You are scanning the water. You are looking for the things that do not belong. You search for the shape of a log floating near the bank, watching to see if the log has eyes. The crocodiles, the dwellers in the water, are always a possibility. You have seen them before, sunning themselves on the sandbars, their ridged backs like broken pottery, their jaws holding a smile of ancient hunger. They are the embodiment of the river's sudden violence, a swift, toothy death that can drag you from the shallows before you can even scream. But there is another fear, a greater one. It is not the crocodile you fear most, but the hippopotamus. You scan the deeper water for the telltale sign, 2 nostrils and a pair of ears breaking the surface, looking for all the world like 2 small stones. The river horse is no gentle beast. It is a creature of immense power and unpredictable rage. You have heard the stories, the terrible accounts of a hippo overturning a fisherman's skiff, its massive jaws snapping the fragile wood like a dry twig. You have seen the damage they can do to the fields, trampling a season's worth of crops in a single furious rampage. Its deep grunting roar is a sound that can freeze the blood, a declaration of ownership over this domain. The men who hunt them are heroes, but you are not a hero. You are a mother, a wife, a woman with a water pot, and you know that to the river horse, you are nothing more than intrusion. Today the river seems calm. The surface is placid, the logs are just logs, and there is no sign of the great beasts. You give thanks to Sabak, the crocodile god, and to Tauret, the fierce hippopotamus goddess who protects mothers and children. With the other women, you move to a shallow, reedy inlet where the bank is low and the water is clearer. You wade in, the cool water swirling around your ankles, your calves. It is a relief from the morning's growing warmth. You dip your pot, letting the water rush in with a deep, gurgling sound. As it fills, you look at the water itself. It is brown with the rich silt that makes your land fertile, the black earth of Kemet, but you know it holds invisible dangers too. You have seen the sickness it can bring. You have seen men and boys, even young girls, who pass blood in their urine, a sign that the river's invisible worms have made a home inside their bodies. You have felt the strange, persistent ache in your own belly some days, a weariness that settles deep in your bones and has no name. It is simply part of life, a price you pay for the river's bounty. It is a curse woven so tightly with a blessing that the two have become one. The pot is full now, heavy with the life it will sustain and the peril it might contain. You lift it, water sloshing over the rim, cool against your skin. With practiced ease, you settle it back on your head. You turn away from the great, shimmering God River, your heart holding both reverence and fear. The walk back to the village is slower, your steps more deliberate under the weight. The water you carry will be used to cook, to clean, to drink. It will nourish your family. It is the most precious thing you will carry all day. And as you walk, you accept the river's bargain, as your mother did, and her mother before her. You accept the life it gives, and you remain ever watchful for the death it hides just beneath the surface. The courtyard of your home is now bathed in the full, warm light of the morning sun. The air is drier here, away from the river, and the shadows are sharp and dark. You set the heavy water pot down in a shaded corner, the clay cool against your hands. The first great task of the day is done. Now the second begins. It is the task that will fill the bellies of your family. It is time to make bread. In another corner of the courtyard sits your primary tool, an object as central to your life as the hearth or the sleeping mats. It is your saddle quern, a large, slightly concave block of limestone, worn smooth in the middle from the work of your own hands, your mother's hands, and perhaps her mother's before that. Beside it rests the grinder, a smaller, loaf-shaped stone that fits perfectly in your grasp. This is the engine of your household. From the small, sealed granary pot inside your home, you scoop out a measure of emmer wheat. The grains are hard and golden, smelling faintly of sunshine and dry earth. You pour them onto the quern, a small pile of potential. Then you kneel. This posture is as familiar to you as walking. Your knees find their usual place in the dust, your body leaning forward, your weight poised. You take the grinding stone in both hands and begin to push it forward, crushing the grain against the limestone bed. Then you pull it back, forward and back, forward and back. It is a rhythm that lives in your bones. It is the pulse of your domestic life. The sound begins, a harsh, grating whisper of stone against stone, punctuated by the faint crackle of the wheat giving way. Shkrr, shkrr. It is not a beautiful sound, but it is the sound of survival. It is the sound of sustenance. Your shoulders begin to burn with a familiar ache. Your lower back protests. Your knees, pressed against the hard-packed earth, send dull signals of complaint. You ignore them. Every woman in your village, in every village up and down the great river, is kneeling just as you are, her body singing the same song of labor. You focus on the task, on the feeling of the grain transforming under your hands. It slowly changes from hard kernels into a coarse, rough flour. You work it back and forth, pushing the flour that gathers at the far end of the quern back into the middle, grinding it again, making it finer. But as you grind, something else is happening, something you cannot see, but you know is true. With every pass of the stone, microscopic particles, tiny flecks of limestone and sandstone are scraped from the quern and the grinder. They are invisible, but they mix into the flour, becoming one with the grain. This is the secret ingredient in every loaf of bread you will ever make. It is the grit of the earth itself. You can taste it always. Even in the finest, softest bread, there is a subtle texture, a graininess that is not from the wheat. It is the taste of your labor, the taste of the stone, and you can feel its effects deep within your own body. Sometimes a dull, throbbing ache awakens in your jaw. It is a pain shared by so many, you know. You see it in the grimace of an old woman trying to chew a tough piece of dried fish. You see it in the way your own husband sometimes favors one side of his mouth. You have looked at the teeth of the very old, at the mummies of ancestors brought out for festivals. You have seen what this stone-laced bread does over a lifetime. It wears the teeth down, grinding the enamel away until they are nothing but flat, brown stubs, level with the gums. And when the tooth is worn away, the nerve is exposed to the world, bringing a pain so sharp, so blinding, it can make a strong man weep. It brings abscesses, hot pockets of infection that swell the jaw and poison the body. There are no dentists to pull the offending tooth. There are only spells to ward off the toothworm you believe is gnawing at the root, and poultices of herbs that offer only fleeting relief. So you live with the ache, and you pray it does not blossom into the fire that you know can kill? This is not the only worry that centers on your food. The flour you are so carefully grinding must be protected. You are in a constant war with weevils that can turn a pot of grain to dust, with mice that can squeeze through the tiniest cracks, with the very air itself, which can turn food sour in the heat of the afternoon. Every meal is a calculation. Is this fish caught yesterday still good? Does this stew, left over from the evening meal, smell right? A mistake can mean days of sickness, of a body racked with cramps and purging, leaving you weak and vulnerable. And behind all these small daily anxieties is a much larger one, a deeper fear that you share with everyone you know. It is the fear of a bad harvest. The fear that the river, your great god Hapi, will not swell enough during the inundation, that the fields will not receive their life-giving layer of black silt. You have heard stories from your grandparents of such times, of the royal granaries being sealed, of hunger walking through the villages like a ghost. That deep, ancestral fear makes every single grain you are now grinding onto the quern feel precious, a tiny golden bead of life that cannot be wasted. This bread you make, the very staff of life, carries within it the grit of the desert and the ache in your jaw. It is a reminder that even nourishment comes with a price, and you are not the only one paying it. As you pause for a moment, the sun climbing higher, I wonder what small, hidden struggles from the past you find most surprising. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. I truly love reading them. And if you're finding this journey into the past a calming one, perhaps consider subscribing to join us again. The flour is ground. Your back and shoulders ache with a dull, familiar fire, but the work is done. You carefully tip the coarse, gritty powder into a wide clay bowl, your movements economical and precise. As you begin to mix in a little water from the pot you carried from the river, and a bubbling, sour starter saved from yesterday's baking, you become aware again of the world beyond your courtyard walls. Your home is not an island. It is one cell in a honeycomb of other homes, all pressed together, their low walls creating a maze of shared lives. You can hear the rhythmic thumping of your neighbor, Izzet, as she beats wet laundry against a smooth stone. You can smell the sharp scent of onions being fried in the home on your other side. Life here is not private. It is a shared performance, a constant, low-level hum of community. You look up as Izzet calls a greeting over the wall. You smile and call back, your voice warm. You ask about her youngest son's cough. She asks about your husband's work. The words are simple, friendly, the common currency of village life. But beneath the surface, there is always a current of something else. You are both listening, observing. You choose your words carefully. You do not complain too much about the ache in your back, lest you be seen as weak or lazy. You do not boast about the small piece of dried fish you will have with your evening meal, lest you attract envy. Your Ren, your name, is your essence. It is the reputation you build with every action, every word, every day. Here in the village, your name is your most valuable possession, more precious than a string of beads or a fine linen shawl. A careless word, a boastful comment repeated by Izzet to another, can tarnish it. And a tarnished name leads to whispers, to sidelong glances, to being left out of a neighbor's brewing party. It leads to isolation, a slow and quiet social death that can be as devastating as any sickness. This web of observation can have a sharper, more venomous bite than simple gossip. Last month, a good copper chisel went missing from the carpenter's workshop. The whispers began immediately. Who had been seen near his home? Who had recently sold a new tool at the market? Suspicion, once it takes root, is a stubborn weed. You feel a familiar knot of anxiety in your stomach just thinking about it. You are careful to be seen as honest, as someone who respects the property of others, because you know how quickly the finger of accusation can point. A tool goes missing, a child falls suddenly ill, a pot of milk sours unexpectedly. In a world where everything has a cause, where Mat, the divine order, must be maintained, these small disasters are rarely seen as random. They are the result of an action, and often that action is believed to be Heka, magic, used for selfish or evil ends. To be accused of theft is a terrible shame, one that could bring you before the village elders, the Kembit, for judgment. But to be accused of cursing a neighbor's child, of blighting their cow with the evil eye, that is a terror that can shatter a family, leaving them as outcasts for a generation. It is this fear, the fear of things both seen and unseen, that makes you glance towards the small, shallow niche carved into the wall of your house. There sit your silent, tireless guardians. You see the squat, powerful form of Base, the dwarf god? His face is a fearsome mask, his tongue sticking out, a lion's mane framing his head. He looks grotesque, comical even, but his power is immense. It is Base who frightens away the demons of the night, who watches over you while you sleep, who protects your daughter from unseen harm. His presence is a comfort, a fierce, loyal growl in the face of the darkness. Beside him stands Tauret, her form a startling combination of a pregnant hippopotamus, the legs of a lion, and the back of a crocodile. She is the embodiment of ferocious, maternal protection. When a woman's body is a vessel for new life, it is Tauret who stands guard, who ensures a safe birth. These are not the great, distant gods of the state temples. These are your family. They are caked with the dust of your home, and you give them a daily offering of a drop of water or a crumb of bread, a small acknowledgement of the great work they do. Your own body is also a fortress. Around your neck you wear a small amulet of faience, the brilliant blue Ujjat eye of Horus. Its gaze is ever watchful, turning back the evil eye, a force you believe comes from the envy of others. If a neighbor looks at your healthy child with a jealous heart, it is the Ujjat eye that protects her from that unspoken curse. Your husband wears an ankh for life. Your daughter has a tiny fish amulet tied around her ankle for fertility and luck. These are not mere decorations, they are your armor. They are your defense against the malice of the living and the meddling of the dead. You have a deep fear of the Aku, the effective spirits. These are the restless dead, those who were not buried with the proper rites or who hold a grudge against the living. They can slip into a home and cause sickness and misfortune. Your amulets, your household gods, the careful observation of rituals, these are the walls you build against such chaos. Life in the village is a constant, delicate dance. Your neighbors are your support, your allies, your friends, but they are also your judges, your rivals, and a potential source of your greatest fears. You navigate this world with careful words, a respectful heart, and the quiet, unwavering protection of the gods who live in your walls. You pause in your work, placing a hand on your lower belly. It is a gesture you make without thinking, a quiet communion with the deepest part of yourself. Your body is a landscape of its own, with its own seasons, its own cycles of flood and drought. It is the vessel through which your Ka, your life force, experiences the world. But as a woman, your body is also something else. It is a field to be sown, a sacred space where new life can take root. This is your greatest purpose, your most profound power, and your most terrifying burden. Every month, when your blood flows, there is a quiet pang of disappointment, a feeling shared in knowing glances with the other women of your village. But there is also a whisper of relief. Relief that the trial has been postponed, that the great danger has not yet come knocking at your door. From the moment you were married, the expectation settled upon you, as invisible but as heavy as the humid summer air. Your husband is kind, but you see the hope in his eyes. Your mother-in-law, her words are honeyed, but they probe. "Any news, my daughter?" She will ask, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. To be fruitful is to be blessed by the gods. To have a son is to secure your husband's line, to ensure there is someone to make the proper offerings for his spirit after he has journeyed to the west. A son gives you status, security. It makes you a true woman in the eyes of the village. To be barren is to live under a shadow of failure. It is to be seen as incomplete, perhaps even cursed. You have seen the sadness in the eyes of childless women, the way they are pitied, the way their husbands sometimes take a second wife in the hope of an heir. This quiet, Constant pressure is a fear all its own, a gnawing anxiety that you are failing in your most fundamental duty. And so you watch your body, you track its rhythms. You pray to Hathor, the golden goddess of love and fertility. And when your monthly blood fails to arrive, a new feeling blossoms in your heart, a feeling so complex it has no single name. It is a dizzying mix of soaring hope and icy dread. You might try the old ways to be certain. You might take 2 small cloth bags, one filled with barley, the other with emmer wheat, and moisten them each day with your urine. The old wives say that if the barley sprouts, it is a boy. If the wheat sprouts, a girl. If neither sprouts, you are not with child. It is a small piece of magic, a way to seek answers from the gods in a time of uncertainty. And if the signs are positive, the true waiting begins. The first months are a secret joy, a time of quiet wonder as you feel your body begin to change. But as your belly swells, becoming a public announcement of your state, the fear grows with it. Every twinge, every cramp sends a jolt of panic through you. The world suddenly seems filled with new dangers. You avoid certain foods, you are careful not to stumble. You wear a special amulet of the goddess Tauret, her fearsome form a promise of protection. When the time comes, it is a journey into the unknown, a battle you must fight largely on your own. You do not lie down in your sleeping mat. You go to a special room, or perhaps a small hut built for this purpose, a place sanctified for the act of creation. Here, the floor is cool earth. You are attended by your mother, perhaps an aunt, and the village midwife, an older woman whose hands have welcomed dozens of babies into the world and shrouded those who did not survive. There is no doctor, no male presence. This is the world of women. You are given a magical spell to read, or perhaps it is recited over you, an incantation to drive away the demons that prey on women in labor. You might even drink a little beer in which a papyrus with a spell has been dissolved, taking the magic directly into your body. You squat, your feet planted firmly on 2 large, decorated bricks, the birthing bricks. They are carved with images of goddesses and symbols of protection. This is the posture of creation. It is primal, powerful, and agonizing. The pain is a red tide, a force of nature that consumes you. It feels as if your very bones are being pulled apart. The midwife speaks to you in a low, calming voice, her words a steady rhythm against the storm inside you. But you know, and she knows, that her power is limited. She can catch the baby, she can cut the cord, but she cannot stop the bleeding if it will not stop on its own. She cannot turn a baby that is positioned wrongly in the womb. She cannot fight the fever that sometimes comes in the days after, a fire that can consume a new mother from the inside out. You have seen it happen. Every woman has. You have heard the wails that follow a birth that ended in death, either for the child or the mother, or most tragically for both. You know that you are walking in the shadow of the goddess of death herself, that you are in a sacred, terrible space between worlds. To give life, you must risk your own. It is the ultimate sacrifice, the most profound act of faith. Holding your own small children close, or perhaps praying for the one you hope to have, you know that this love is the fiercest magic you possess. But the world outside your door has its own demands, its own dangers that your husband must face each day. The strength of women throughout history is a quiet but powerful story. Thank you for letting me share this part of it with you. If this story is helping you unwind, I'm so glad. Sharing it with a friend who also loves history is a wonderful way to support this channel. Your husband, Keenan, has returned from the fields. His skin baked to the color of the earth itself, his back stooped with the familiar weight of a day's labor. You watch as he drinks deeply from the water pot, the muscles in his throat working. His hands, though rough and calloused, are gentle as he touches your daughter's head. His presence is the sturdy center post of your small home, the reality upon which your family is built. The fears you face within these walls, the scorpion, the sickness, the pains of childbirth are your domain. But Keenan must face the dangers that lie beyond the village, the dangers that come not from the natural world, but from the world of men and their great king. It is a world whose power is absolute, whose reach is inescapable, and whose shadow touches everything. The anxiety begins as a whisper, a ripple that spreads through the village almost silently. a runner was seen on the road from the north. A barge flying a royal insignia was moored downriver. Soon the whisper becomes a certainty, the scribes are coming. There is a subtle shift in the village atmosphere. The usual cheerful chatter quiets down, laughter becomes more subdued. Women call their children closer. It is the feeling of a flock of birds falling silent at the sight of a hawk circling high overhead. And then you see him. He walks down the central path of the village, flanked by 2 guards with stout wooden staffs. He is not a warrior. His strength is not in his arms, but in the pallet he carries, a simple wooden board with wells for black and red ink, and in the roll of precious papyrus tucked under his arm, he is clean. His linen kilt is white and freshly pleated. He moves with an air of detached authority, his eyes missing nothing. He is the mind and memory of the state, the physical embodiment of Pharaoh's will. He does not need to raise his voice. His power is quiet, methodical. He and his assistants will spend days here. They will walk the fields, their measuring cords stretching out to calculate the exact size of every plot. They will count the cattle, the goats, the geese. They will open the granaries and thrust their hands deep into the grain, assessing its quality and quantity. You and Kenan will be called before him. You will stand with your head slightly bowed, hands clasped, answering his questions in a quiet, respectful tone. You will feel utterly exposed, your entire year's labor, your family's entire wealth, laid bare for his inspection. In a good year, when the inundation was generous and the harvest was bountiful, the taxes a heavy weight, but one you can bear, you will give the state its share of your grain, perhaps a calf, a portion of all you have. It is the price of living under the protection of the living God, Pharaoh. But the fear that truly gnaws at you is the fear of a bad year. What if the river did not rise high enough, leaving some of your fields dry and barren? What if a sickness swept through your small herd? The scribe's role does not account for personal tragedy. The tax is calculated on the land you hold, not the harvest you reaped. The numbers are fixed. And if you cannot pay, the consequences are swift. You have seen it. You have seen a neighbor, a good man, beaten with a staff by the guards for being short on his grain payment. You have seen another family's only dairy cow led away, their pleas and cries ignored. The scribe simply makes a new mark on his papyrus, his face impassive. This is the cold arithmetic of power. Your family's hunger is a small matter when weighed against the needs of the God-King's treasury, which feeds the army and funds the building of the great temples to Amun-Ra. This claim on your property is frightening enough, but the state can demand a price far greater than grain or livestock. It can claim the body of your husband. One day, an official may arrive with a different list, a list of names for the corvée. The great pharaoh, may he live forever, is building a new pylon for the temple at Karnak, or a tomb in the Valley of the Kings, a secret house for his eternity. Such work requires tens of thousands of hands, and those hands must come from villages like yours. If Kenan's name is on that list, he will go. There is no refusing. He will be gone for months, quarrying stone under the burning sun or hauling massive blocks of granite on sledges, his back straining alongside thousands of others. The work is dangerous, the food is meager, and the separation is a wound in the heart of your family. His absence means his work in your own fields goes undone, putting the next harvest at risk. And even deeper than that fear is the terror of a call to arms. When Pharaoh decides to march his armies, to punish the Libyans in the west, or to secure the gold mines of Nubia in the south, the summons goes out. The army needs soldiers, and farmers can be made to hold a spear just as they hold a hoe. This summons is not for a few months of labor. It is a journey into violence and death. You have seen the men who return from such campaigns, their eyes haunted, their bodies scarred, and you know they are the lucky ones? Many do not return at all, their bodies left to the vultures in a foreign desert. They become just another name on a scribe's long list, a statistic in a glorious victory for a distant, divine king whose face you have only ever seen carved 10 times larger than life on a temple wall. His power is your protection, but his shadow is a constant, quiet threat to the small, precious life you have built. The day's heat begins to bleed out of the earth as the sun god, Ra, begins his slow, majestic descent into the west. This is the most beautiful and the most sorrowful time of day. The sky is painted with impossible colors, saffron, rose, and a deep, bruised purple as the great god sails his solar barge towards the gates of the underworld. The light softens, stretching the shadows of the palm trees and the houses into long, distorted fingers that claw at the edges of the village. The air grows still and cool. The familiar sounds of work, the grinding of stone, the chatter of neighbors, the thud of a hoe all fade away, replaced by the chirping of crickets and the soft cooing of doves settling in for the night. This beautiful death of the day signals the coming of a new and different kind of fear, a primal dread as old as humanity itself. It is the fear of the dark. You call your daughter inside, her small hand warm in yours. The last of the cooking pots are cleaned and put away. The final act of the day is to secure your home against the coming night. You and Keenan work together to lift the heavy wooden bar and slide it into the thick, sturdy brackets on either side of the door. The sound of the wood settling into place is a deep, satisfying thud. It is the sound of safety, a declaration that this small space belongs to you and not to the things that roam the darkness. Your world, which a few hours ago stretched to the river and the fields, has now shrunk to the size of these 4 mud-brick walls. Keenan lights a small clay lamp. A wick floating in sesame oil catches fire, sputtering to life. It is a tiny, brave star in the growing gloom, but its light is weak. It pushes the darkness back, but does not defeat it, creating a small island of flickering amber light in an ocean of black. The corners of the room dissolve into shadow. The familiar textures of the walls, the shape of the storage jars, all become strange and menacing, their edges softened, their forms shifting with every flicker of the flame. With sight so limited, your sense of hearing becomes painfully sharp. The night has its own language, and you lie on your sleeping mat listening. You hear the gentle rustle of the wind through the thatch on your roof, and for a moment you wonder if it is just the wind, or perhaps something small and unseen moving above you. You hear the distant, mournful howl of a jackal from the desert hills, a sound that always sends a shiver down your spine, for the jackal is the creature of Anubis, the god who guides the dead. It is a reminder of the thin veil that separates your warm, living world from the cold, silent world of the tomb. A night bird lets out a strange, strangled cry, and you hold your breath, listening to the answering silence. Every sound is a question mark. Every silence is a potential threat. You are no longer the master of your environment. You are a trespasser in the domain of the night, huddled in your fragile shelter, praying for the dawn. This fear is not just of the unknown. It is populated by specific terrors, creatures your mother and grandmother warned you about in hushed tones. When Ra travels through the underworld, his light is gone from the earth, and it is then that the agents of chaos, the enemies of Mamat, are strongest. You believe in the demons that slip through the night, beings with twisted bodies and malevolent hearts. There are those who can bring sickness with a touch, who can whisper terrible dreams into the ear of a sleeper, who prey on the vulnerable, especially pregnant women and newborn children. This is why your fierce guardian base is so important, his ugly face a shield against these nocturnal horrors. And it is not just the supernatural you fear. The scorpion you dispatched this morning is more active at night, its dark body invisible against the dark floor. Snakes, seeking warmth, might crawl into a storage pot. The night gives cover to all things that bite and sting, blending them perfectly into the shadows. You pull your daughter closer, her small body a warm, comforting weight against your side. To calm her, and perhaps yourself, you tell her a story. It is not a happy story, but a warning wrapped in the soft blanket of your voice. You tell her of the foolish child who disobeyed his parents and wandered out of his home after the sun had set. You describe how he was tricked by the sweet voice of a demon who took the form of a beautiful woman, how he was led into the desert where he was lost forever. Your daughter listens, her eyes wide in the flickering lamplight. She is learning the most important lesson of all. The night is not for you. The night belongs to the gods, to the spirits, and to the dangerous things that hunt in the absence of the sun. You end the story with the promise of Ra's return, his inevitable victory over the great serpent Apep, and his glorious rebirth in the east. It is a promise you cling to. a belief that gives you the strength to close your eyes and surrender to the long, watchful hours of darkness. Lying in the deep, quiet dark of your home, you feel the world begin to slip away. The last embers of thought, the worries of the day, the plans for tomorrow, all cool and fade like the ashes in the hearth. Sleep is not a simple rest, it is a departure. You feel your consciousness untethering from your limbs, a loosening of the bonds that hold you to the solid, waking world. You have been taught that your Ba, the part of your soul that is your unique self, can leave your body in sleep, flying free as a human-headed bird to wander the night. The steady, rhythmic breathing of your husband and your daughter beside you is an anchor, a golden cord that ensures your Ba will find its way back to your sleeping form before the dawn. You surrender to the gentle pull, letting go of the shoreline of wakefulness and drifting out into the vast, silent ocean of sleep. Here, in this other world, there are no walls, no time. Images rise unbidden, vivid and real. You are walking through a field of barley that stretches to the horizon. The stalks as tall as you are, their heads heavy and golden. The sun is warm, but it is not the sun of the living world. It is softer, more gentle. You see your grandmother, who journeyed to the West 3 seasons ago. She looks just as you remember her face crinkled in a familiar smile. She does not speak in words, but a feeling of reassurance passes from her to you, a message that the ancestors are watching, that they are pleased. This is a good dream, a blessing. It is a message from the gods, a sign that Mat, the divine order, is strong in your life. You feel a sense of peace settle over you. But the landscape of dreams is treacherous. The pleasant field can suddenly wither, the golden stalks turning to black dust. Your grandmother's smiling face can melt away, replaced by a featureless mask that stares at you with empty eyes. The gentle sun can vanish, plunging you into a cold, disorienting twilight. You are suddenly alone, lost in a place you do not know, a strange, breathless fear tightening its grip on your heart. This is the other side of dreaming. A nightmare is not just a frightening fantasy. It is a portent, a divine warning of impending doom. It could be an attack by a malevolent spirit or a sign that you have offended one of the gods. You might wake with a gasp, your heart hammering against your ribs, the terrifying images still clinging to the edges of your mind. You will spend the next day in a state of quiet anxiety, searching for the meaning of the omen, praying that the evil it foretold does not come to pass. This nightly rehearsal of departure and return makes you think of the final journey, the one from which your Ba will not return to your living body. This is the great Egyptian fear, the terror that underlies everything. It is not death itself you fear, for death is merely a transition. It is the second death, the fear of oblivion, of ceasing to exist entirely. This is why the rites of burial are so profoundly important. You pray that when your time comes, your family will have the means to have your body properly preserved, mummified, so that your Ka and Ba will have a home to return to. You pray they will hire a priest to perform the opening of the mouth ceremony, touching your lips with sacred tools so you may speak and eat in the afterlife. Without these rites, you would be a mute, helpless spirit, lost and alone for eternity. The journey itself is fraught with peril. The texts say that to reach the field of reeds, the perfect reflection of the Egypt you love, you must first pass through the Duat, the underworld. It is a treacherous realm of 12 gates, each guarded by terrifying demons with names like He Who Lives on Snakes and He Who Dances in Blood. To pass each gate, you must know the correct secret name, the correct magical spell from the scrolls that will hopefully be buried with you. Failure means being trapped or destroyed. And if you survive this terrifying passage, you face the final trial, the weighing of the heart. You imagine yourself standing in the great hall of two truths before the god Osiris. Anubis, the jackal-headed guide, leads you to a vast golden scale. On one side, he places the delicate white feather of Mat, the goddess of truth and cosmic order. On the other, he places your heart. As Thoth, the ibis-headed scribe, prepares his palette to record the verdict, you must recite the negative confessions, declaring your innocence of 42 sins. It is the ultimate moment of judgment. If your heart, heavy with lies and misdeeds, outweighs the feather, it will be thrown to the floor to be devoured by Emmet, a monster with the head of a crocodile, the body of a lion and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus. To be eaten by Amit is to be annihilated, your existence erased from the cosmos forever. It is the second death. It is the end of everything. The terror of the final judgment, the weight of your heart on the great scale, begins to fade like a dream upon waking. The darkness in your mind softens, giving way to the gentle, steady reality of the present moment. The cool night air is on your skin. The soft sound of your family breathing beside you is the only music in the world. And far away, in the east, the first, faintest hint of gray begins to outline the horizon. The great god Ra has survived his perilous journey. He has defeated the serpent of chaos. Soon he will be reborn, and his light will once again bless the land of the living. The single, unwavering promise is the foundation of all hope. It is the belief that light will always conquer darkness, that order will always overcome chaos, that life, in the end, is stronger than death. To live in your world was to be in a constant, quiet dialogue with fear. It was the scorpion on the floor, the invisible worms in the water, the grit in the bread, the envious whisper of a neighbor, the terror of the birthing bricks, the shadow of the scribe, and the demons of the night. Life was a narrow path on a high cliff edge, but a life of constant fear is no life at all. And so you, and the millions like you who lived and died along this great river, found a way to fill that narrow path with moments of grace, joy, and profound beauty. You found a hope that was stronger than fear. This hope lived in the small things. It was in the taste of the first sweet date of the harvest, a burst of sugar on your tongue. It was in the sound of your daughter's laughter as she chased a butterfly in the courtyard. It was in the shared glance of understanding with your husband at the end of a long day, a silent acknowledgement of your shared burdens and your shared love. It was in the satisfaction of seeing a perfectly formed pot emerge from the kill, or a row of freshly planted onions poking their green shoots through the black earth. It was in the collective joy of a village festival, the music of the flute, and the drum, the taste of beer, the feeling of being one thread in a vibrant, living tapestry of people. These moments were not distractions from the hardship. They were the purpose of it all. They were the substance of a life well lived. And holding it all together was your profound faith in Ma'at. This was more than just a goddess with a feather on her head. It was the very structure of the universe. It was truth, order, balance, and justice. You believed that your life had meaning because every right action, every honest word, every prayer, every perfectly woven piece of cloth, every carefully tended field was an offering. It was your contribution to maintaining that cosmic balance. You were not just a passive subject of the gods. You were an active participant in their great work of keeping the chaos at bay. This belief gave you dignity. It gave you purpose. It transformed a life of struggle into a sacred duty. The people of this ancient land were not defined by their fears, but by their incredible resilience, their enduring love for their families, and their unwavering belief in the eventual triumph of light. Thank you for walking through this ancient day with me. May your own night be peaceful and your dreams be sweet. Until next time.